Welcome to the Three Championship Drive podcast on YouTube, hosted by me, Lance Caporossi. Follow me on X at Lance Caporossi, the same way you see it spelled on the screen. And check out the Three Championship Drive podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to hit the follow button and do us a favor. Tell a Pistons fan. Nailed that one, finally.
You did good, but
Thank you.
started it in mid conversation of me absolutely losing it. So
Yeah, we were making okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, I do kind of have somewhat of a resemblance to Jason Kelsey. I don't know why it happened this way, but it did. And I'm wearing the Sexiest Man Alive finalist shirt. So Zach pulls up a picture of someone apparently he looks like, and I'm just telling you, I disagree.
yeah, well, I appreciate it. And did Leilani buy you that shirt? Please tell me she bought it for you and you didn't buy
Yeah,
it
I
for
would
yourself.
never buy myself
I don't
this.
know. That's one hell of an ego boost for yourself. It's like, I look like him. I'm just gonna buy it. Wait, didn't he actually win?
No,
Did he win
came in third.
Sexiest Man of the
He
year?
came in third. He came in third.
To who? Who won?
I don't follow it this closely.
All
I
right.
just happen to know he came in third because I happen to have somewhat of a resemblance to the guy. That is
fair
all.
enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Are you ready to get into this? Because this is probably the most serious episode we'll ever do.
He came in second.
Oh, okay. I was wrong.
First place was Pedro Pascal. I don't know who that is.
Dude, the Mandalorian.
Oh, that's who that is. Yeah, he came in second, and then Ryan Gosling was third. All right, now that we have that done, I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, like I said, most serious episode we're doing.
Ryan Gosling.
The search for a new president of basketball operations is underway, and it is still ongoing. NBA teams are required to request permission to interview front office executives who are under contract with opposing teams, and some of the candidates that the Detroit Pistons wish to interview are still in the playoffs. So that's a reason this search is taking a little longer, which in my opinion is a good thing. I don't want them to rush this decision. I really want someone in here to turn the fortunes of the team. So I'm going to give you some facts about the search that are going on, and this actually comes from Omari Sankofa of the Detroit Free Press, I believe. I sometimes confuse the two big newspapers in Detroit and who he writes for, so I do apologize for that. The Detroit Pistons are using Turnkey ZRG, a search firm that works with professional and college teams to find qualified candidates. According to The Athletic, it typically takes Turnkey ZRG 6 weeks to complete a search. Both Mark Stein and the Ringers, Kevin O'Connor, have both mentioned Jon Horst, who was a member of the Detroit Pistons front office from 07 to 08. I actually had a class at Western Michigan taught by his aunt as well. Mark Stein has also listed Dennis Lindsey, former Utah Jazz executive, current Minnesota Timberwolves president Tim Conley, who actually built the Denver Nuggets as well. And they're both battling in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. That's pretty cool. And former NBA player JJ Redick. Ian Begley named Scott Perry as a candidate as well. Dennis Lindsey and Scott Perry rank pretty high on the Pistons list, but that's just because Tim Conley still isn't available. I don't even know if Jon Horst is available to talk, even though the Milwaukee Bucks are now actually out of the playoffs. They still have to get permission from them to talk to him. And I do believe he is actually the favorite. But the head of basketball operations will be calling all of the shots and report to Tom Gores directly, and will have the power to hire and fire anybody they see fit. So the good thing with this is it's no longer Troy Weaver's team or his rebuild or restore, whatever the hell you want to call it. Personally, I'm hoping for Tim Conley just because the Nuggets won the last championship and Minnesota looks poised to win the championship this year. But I still think out of all of these names, I think he's the most unrealistic. But Zach, who do you think out of all of these names is going to be the next president of basketball operations for the Detroit Pistons?
Man, I wish I could give you a bunch of educated guesses on all of these guys from their wiki pages, but I have not a whole lot. The only one that I really looked into was Jon Horst, just because of his relation to being a Michigan native. So that's kind of how I drew that into perspective. From what I looked at him with successes, I mean, at this point, I think we just need a new face and someone that actually can maybe be a good representative for the organization. at this point. Like, I think new blood's our best case scenario. So whether it's Horst, Lindsley, or Tim Connolly, like Tim Connolly, I don't think he's going anywhere, man. Like they're successfI don't think he's leaving.
Yeah.
And why would he leave? Their team is so good and they're still building. Like that's like I don't think I've heard it a lot, but Denver is a dynasty right now. And I think they're going to continue to kind of be a dynasty within the next couple of years because it looks like they're keeping good pieces. Like last year, they only really gave away Bruce Brown, which was somewhat of a piece to that championship team. So they've been kind of still acquiring everybody that they need, and they're still drafting well. So I don't think Connolly's going to be anywhere near what we're going to be able to have an opportunity to get. I don't think money can purchase him from the situation he's in. So, but from the list that we have, Jon Horst, I feel like is our number one go-getter. And it's nice to see that we're actually giving the opportunity for someone to actually make a decision and fire at will. Like, just let it go. Like, if I don't like you, you're done. We'll see. But if you're going to hire a president of basketball operations, I feel like you doing that is opening up that suggestion box and just letting it rock and roll. So now we just need someone in that position that's willing to make those big decisions. And I mean, Jon Horst could be that guy because from what I've seen to him do at Milwaukee and what he's built with that organization, like I think it'd be a good idea for the Pistons to go get him.
Yeah, and I think some of these dudes really love the challenge of building a championship contender. And Tim Connolly, the thing that might work for the Pistons' favor is he did leave the Nuggets organization before they won the championship, so he left them pretty early. Now there is stuff going on with their franchise in terms of who the owner is right now, and I think Alex Rodriguez and a few other people were actually trying to purchase the Minnesota Timberwolves. And there's a whole story behind that. So that might work out in the Detroit Pistons' favor if there's so much like confusion of who's going to own the organization and everything like that. But I agree with you. I think it's Jon Horst. I think he's coming back. I think because I think in Milwaukee, he was still living in the shadow of John Hammond, who is now the guy that's he's the one building it in Orlando, and he had a lot of say in what happened in Milwaukee. So I think there's still a part where his shadow still looms over Jon Horst a little bit. And he probably, if I was Jon Horst, I would want just the opportunity to say, look, I did this on my own. This was nobody else's hands are in this. This is what I'm here to do. And I think he could do it in Detroit. I really do. He was an executive of the year in 2019. He has ties to the Detroit Pistons. I also want to mention that Scott Perry, I believe, is also from the state of Michigan as well. And I don't really know too much about him. I know Dennis Lindsley, he's a consultant for the Mavericks, but I know that he also was the Utah Jazz executive. I think we can throw JJ Redick's name out, though.
Yeah, I think he's too tied in right now to the Lakers conversation for a head coaching position, to be honest. And I saw a bunch of things on like Instagram reels and everything saying that his little podcast that he had with LeBron James was the open interview for him getting the job at LA. Like, I think that's pretty insane, but JJ Redick to be put as president of operations, I don't think that's something that I really want to trust him doing.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know all the responsibilities of the job, but I would rather have a guy that's been in the position or has worked in a front office taking this position versus a guy that, even though JJ Redick is very knowledgeable about the game of basketball, I just rather have a guy that's had these responsibilities before. My question to you though is, so we don't know who the president will be or what his decisions will be. I assume he's going to clean house in the front office. I believe Monty Williams will be safe, but let's say he does want to keep Troy Weaver and Monty Williams around. Do you think he will be able to build a successful franchise with Monty and Troy at their current positions?
We're not successful now, so I don't see where we're playing Lincoln Logs and we just have a base right now. Like there's nothing there. We still have so much to accomplish. There's still a lot of cleaning that needs to be happened through the organization. Does it start with Monty and Troy? Probably not. I don't think they get touched. I think because I know we touched base on this couple episodes ago about really giving Monty the opportunity to be successful other than having just one and done type of year for him. Even though if we do a one and done, he just basically robbed Detroit, which good for him, I guess. And then someone will pick him up and use him as a head coach or an assistant, or if he even wants to keep coaching in general after dealing with the stress that he had in Detroit being let go. Because that's not really something that's too impressive to put on a resume. It's like, oh, hey, sign me. I had 28 losing streak. I'm really good. No, you're really not. So I don't think that there's going to be a lot of offers on the table if we end up letting him go. But I don't think moving him, if anyone's going to stay, I think Monty is going to be the one to stay and Weaver would be the one to bounce. And depending on who we hire as the president, El Presidente, I think if they're going to bring someone in for Troy Weaver's position, it's going to be someone that they have ties with. So, because that's kind of how it works, I feel like with GM positions is you're bringing in people that you already have a connection with and that you can work well with. So if anyone's going to go, I think it would end up being Troy Weaver. I think Monty gets another season. Now, Monty, I think he's going to be on thin ice through that season. I don't think they let them, if they end up start doing another L streak and we get to 12 or 13 games, man, it might be time to cut ties. But that all depends on how much of a leash that, say it's Jon Horst gets this position, it's how big of a leash he wants to give Monty Williams with the reins of the team. So I don't know what the conversation is going to be held. I think there is going to be changes. I don't think Dwayne Casey will end up being in front office or part of the office at all. I think there's a lot of people that'll get moved around and pushed around, but we need change, whether it's good or bad to whoever's eyes. It's just even when we had the last podcast with Doc, whatever we're doing right now is not working. So you might as well just try something. So
there is a part of me too that thinks you should, if you're the Detroit Pistons, completely clean house, because you cannot have the failure of last season carry over to the next season. So whether you got to get rid of the front office, the coaching staff, get rid of some of the players, like you can't have that season and that negativity around the new guys coming in. Like, dude, you're a free agent, you walk into Detroit, and then you have like 3 of the players talking about how tough it was to lose 28 games last year. Like that would just annoy me that that's just hanging over this team. So I don't think the Pistons would be successful with Monty Williams and Troy Weaver in their same positions right now. I agree with you. I think Monty Williams will get another season or two, and the new guy coming in, whether it's Jon Horst or whoever, they're going to have their hands full trying to build a competitive roster and bringing players in that can help Monty succeed. I think it's going to be a huge challenge for them. But again, I think that cleaning house is the thing you have to do when you're the new president coming into Detroit, because again, you just can't have that season looming over you. It's just too much negativity, and it's not good going into your first season with the Detroit Pistons. So I think cleaning house is the thing the new guy is going to have to come in and do.
Isn't that a part of basically running the team? Like, isn't that what you want to do? You want to come in and kind of make it your team. You want to be able to have your people you trust in positions. Like, even let's just say, and do an analogy, it's like even with like a new job, when a new company takes over or buys your employment, like you come in, if you're not making any changes in any management positions, you're not going to see any positive changes because everything's staying the same. So I think with new faces and new places, I think maybe that it could be a little different for Detroit, but definitely there will be some maneuvering no matter who gets the position. I don't see a lot of people keeping their titles as they have right now.
I agree with you. I really do. I think cleaning house is the way to go. But I do think there's a part too where like the guy looks at the roster and he's like, oh man, I really like Isaiah Stewart. I like what he brings. I'm loving Cade Cunningham. I like Quentin Grimes and his potential. Simone Fontecchio, that's a good guy to keep around because he's a 28-year-old veteran and he's a guy that complements Cade and all these guys. Well, I think you do look at it that way, but you are correct. Like you very much want to have a clean sweep and just a new canvas to build this in your own vision. And I really don't have any problem with it. But again, to reiterate, I don't think the Pistons would be successful keeping Monty and Troy in their same positions.
I mean, here's a question for you. Like, say you're a GM, right? And you have the opportunity. Would you rather, as a GM, you finally get a title like president of basketball operations for any professional team? Like, it doesn't matter. Say you're getting brought in. Like, do you want to start at ground zero? Because that's what it is. Like that's how you're going to make a name for yourself, right? Like starting with absolutely nothing and making it all yours. Like, I think that is a legacy that you build for yourself. Like, so if you're coming in as the president of basketball operations, isn't that like, wouldn't that be your goal to move pieces around and do things the way you want them to be done? Like, because you have to make your own changes. You have to be able to, whether it's players or coaching staff or training staff, it doesn't really matter. But I feel like some of these guys, you want to take it as a challenge. You're coming to a team that only won 14 games, and you want to be the man that turns it around. So I think if you come in as the GM, wouldn't you want to automatically kind of start making moves and positions?
Oh, 100%. I would want to make it in my whatever my vision is. That's what I'm going to try to do as the new GM. So my question to you is though, if you are a GM or a guy coming into the president of basketball operations and you're looking at the Detroit Pistons situation, yeah, only 14 wins, but you have 60 million in cap. You're going to get a top 5 pick, good odds to get the number 1 overall pick. How favorable compared to other open president of basketball operations positions out there? Like, where do you think Detroit ranks on that list of open jobs available?
I think it's the number one because it has the most opportunity with what you have for cap space, where you're located in the draft, with the roster that you have. That we've talked that they are kind of shit, but I mean they still have decent players on the team. I mean, winning 14 games is not good, but they did compete in most. I'd say at least 40% of games there were within 5 or 7 points. So I mean, I think you have a competitive roster and you have all the opportunity. He could come in and your core four, he could trade 3 of them. We
True.
don't know. We don't know. We don't know how it's going to work. And honestly, at this point, you can't even be upset with that if he wants to move pieces around. If I'm going to come in and I have an opportunity to bring in other veterans from other teams and get rid of a guy that's been in the league for only 2 years, I might just take that opportunity. Like, you can't. We're at the bottom. We've been at rock bottom. We've been smelling rock bottom. They say there's only way it's up, but we're still laying there, and we have not stood up yet. So until we start moving some pieces around, that's what I would do. I would take this as a huge opportunity. As a GM, you want to come in and you want to make moves and you want to transition. And honestly, like, you go in and whatever you do and it flops, then damn, like, we suck again. Like, it is what it is. At least we took a shot. Just don't sign someone that's in their 23rd year in the NBA and pay them $200 million. Just don't do that.
I mean, if they're gonna bring more wins, you have to. And I don't know where you got the whole 40% thing. I hope you looked at the schedule and you were quickly doing
Was I way
that.
wrong? I
I
mean,
have no
they were
idea.
competitive in some. I mean, I could be, hey man, hey, shoot me now, man. Like, I could be 100% wrong. I'll have to now go and look. Maybe it's 20%. Maybe
As
I
a
doubled it to feel good about myself.
as a fan that watched, like, I don't know,
Dude,
74 of the 82 games, I can tell you, I don't know if you're I don't
I
know
mean,
if
my
you're
my
close.
statistics could be incredibly wrong, but I love the Pistons. I truly do.
Yeah.
But with my normal work schedule and working night shift and not having a whole lot of time, I was more of getting the ESPN updates on the final score, and I never really got to see the of all
Yeah.
of the
No, you're
games of
good.
the season. No, I get it. Hey, I'm defending myself. Like, if
Yeah.
I made a mistake, I'm wrong. They have a competitive roster. We do. But I think there needs to be a lot of maneuvering to be able to adjust. And what is also good is I think the Eastern Conference is a lot weaker than the Western Conference. And so if you're going to come in and you're going to make changes, I think you're in a better situation just from the talent from other teams for teams making the playoffs. So
Yeah, no,
it's
for sure.
and that's too, is a lot of people are talking about how Detroit's not a destination for like high volume players. Like, why not? Like, if you're Devin Booker in the West, why would you not want to leave and go to the East? Like, it's a little bit easier to get out of the playoffs. And like, I don't know. I mean, I could
Yeah,
be wrong, like my 40%. I don't know. There's
I
way
get what
too
you're
many
saying.
things that need to happen for a president to come in and make their changes and do what they want to do. But I think we still have a long ass windy road to become successful.
No, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I get what you're saying about Devin Booker coming to Detroit. And if you're a superstar, why not come to the Eastern Conference? And you could, because you're more, it's not as much of a gauntlet as the Western Conference is to make the playoffs. I get what you're saying.
Mm.
So the Detroit Pistons, as we've been saying, they were bad last season. 14 wins, 17% win percentage, 25th in points per game, 26th in defensive points per game, 24th in defensive field goal percentage, 28th in turnovers per game, 29th in turnovers per offensive play. I think it was like 13% or something like that. It might have even been higher. Again, I could be getting it wrong, so I don't have the numbers pulled up in front of me. I could continue to go on with stats, but I'm guessing you, Zach, and the listeners, you guys get the picture. This team was just terrible. So with all those numbers, you can see why we need veterans. I was talking with a friend that loosely follows the Detroit Pistons, and he says to me that he didn't understand the urgency to sign veterans. So I pointed out to him, it's the rebuilding the team roster. Veterans improve team performance. Bringing in better players can attract additional talent to this team. Like if you're like a Devin Booker, you're not going to want to come to a 14-win team. But if you win 26, 28, 30 wins next year, and you could be the missing piece to push them over the top, it looks a little bit more enticing to you. Enhancing fan engagement and support. I mean, I don't think you really have a problem with Detroit sports fans because the team can be god awful and they're going to show up to the games. And then flexibility and team strategy, basically kind of the same point as attracting additional talent. Like it's gonna when you have better players, it allows you to open up the offensive playbook and allows you to do a few more things on the floor. But like, why do you think the Pistons? I mean, unless you agree with all the points that I just made, why we should sign veterans? Do you have anything to add? Why the Pistons should sign veterans?
I feel like when we sign veterans, all we do is bring back old Pistons players, thinking that they're just going to like reaccumulate and be like, "Oh my God, you were bad then, but hopefully when you come back, you're better now." I I like the idea of signing vets. Like I have no problem with it, but it's when we're signing guys on the coattail ends of their career that's not really going to be such of a
Yeah.
solution to us. I what is a veteran? What is a veteran to you? How many years are they in the league? Like what is that? How does that count? Do you 7, 8 years in the league? Does that define a veteran with leadership skills? Like I don't know really what the classification as a veteran that we want to bring into the team. Because I mean, you could say that Tobias Harris is a veteran, and man, that guy just got slaughtered in the media for his last game for Philadelphia in the
He only took
playoffs.
2 shots though. Come
I get
on.
that. I understand that, but man, they ate him up. Like I'd be okay with them bringing in pieces, but I think the veterans that we take shots at, like recently, like the late great Mike Muscala, like I think we're taking the I think we're taking the
Don't
wrong
even.
we're taking the wrong approach as veterans. Like I don't I'm all for it. We can bring in pieces, we can bring in guys to lead the locker room, but at some point these young guys got to stand up and do it themselves. So as much as you can learn from all these guys like Mike Muscala coming into the locker room, I don't think it's going to mean anything until they can actually like understand what it is to be a leader. Because I think that's what you're looking for veterans, right? It's
I
not
mean, I'm
really
not looking for guys just to be teachers. Like, I'm looking for guys that still have a lot left in the tank that can help and contribute to winning. That's all I want. Like, I don't want. I mean, it was fun watching 43-year-old Haj Gibson on the floor. Don't get me wrong. That was great. But if you're just going to bring a veteran in so that the guys can learn, no, I want a veteran that's going to be able to play and push these guys. Like, bring back Chris Middleton. You know what I'm saying? Who's 32 years old, but I think was averaging 23 points per game for the Milwaukee Bucks and like 9 rebounds for them, even though they lost in the first round. Bring a guy like that back who still could potentially be an all-star in his early 30s that's going to push Jaden Ivey, that's going to push Asar Thompson, that's going to push Quentin Grimes, Simone Fontecchio. I want him to do that. Those are the type of veterans I want. Like Mike Muscala was fun, Danilo Gallinari, he was fun too, but those guys, they're not rotation pieces on good teams. You bring in veterans that can be rotation pieces on good, whether they're starters or just coming off the bench. But as long as they're getting minutes on good teams, that is how you build a competitive roster nowadays. That's what you need to do. Those are the kind of veterans I want.
I mean, so yeah, so you're looking doesn't have to be a starting 5 option. It could be a
No.
6th, 7th, or 8th man, but as long as someone that actually can produce and lead and show young bucks what it is to actually play in the league for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it does mean something to be an NBA player for 14, 13 seasons.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're good enough to keep getting paid and doing this job. So
like, if you're winning games and you want to bring in DeAndre Jordan to help guys learn, all right, he doesn't need to be a huge part of your rotation. I get that. That's when you bring in those guys where, like a DeAndre Jordan, where they've been playing for 13, 14 years or whatever, and they could give you 8 to 10 minutes when you really need it, or even be a spot starter. But for the most part, they have your rotation. That's a valuable guy to have when your team is good. But when you're a 14-win team, you need veterans that are going to play and push these guys.
I feel like we're just bringing in veterans that are all tail ends. Like they're just kind of last legging it, maybe getting another little bit of a paycheck just to end the career. And even if you're walking, you might as well go out with a bang with 28 losses. Like if you're going to be the biggest loser, you might as well do the best.
Oh, dude, if I'm like Tobias Harris and you're going to pay me $25 million, I'm going to go for a career high. Dude, I'm averaging 23 or more.
Yeah, we're paying you to shoot the ball, not to do anything else. Like
we don't want you to teach. We just want you to shoot the ball. That's all I want. So what are your free agency archetypes coming in? Like as we're looking at the free agency class, I know it's not like the deepest, but there are some valuable players in there. But before we get to names, who are some guys that you're like, what's the archetype you're looking for?
You talking about like 2K? Like if I could build my perfect player?
Yeah, are you looking for 3-and-D guys? Are you looking for rangy defenders with length? Like, what are you looking for?
If we're going after people, I think we're going after scorers strictly.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're at because defensively, I think I'm not going to – we're not good. What were they? What was the rank? 25th on defense or something?
In defense. Defensive points per game, they were 26th.
Yeah, we weren't good at anything. So I think at least at this point, like if we're going to bring in 2 guys and we're just going to be strictly defensive players, like that's still not guaranteed that we're going to go from 25th to 16th for defensive ranking. I don't think that's going to matter getting one more steal a game. So if we're going to go and we're going to pick someone, I think we bring someone in that's elite that can maybe play good enough that we can get more people to go watch the games, maybe sell some more jerseys, maybe make some more money. But I think if we're going to take a shot anywhere, I want to get someone that's at least averaging maybe over 22, 23 points a game right now.
So your archetype is an all-star.
That's
what you're looking for. Okay.
We have the money for it. Didn't we just talk about bringing someone in? I'll bring Mike Muscala back and I'll let it rain, bro. 14 3 attempts. That's in your contract. If you don't take 14 threes, you're done. Like
hang on, man. Let me pull up the free agency class for you real quick and let me list off the the all-stars for you that we can sign. LeBron James, Paul George, Klay Thompson, James Harden.
Paul George, didn't he turn down his
it says he has a player option, but I think, he has not discussed with the Clippers.
Yeah.
He's 34 years old. He's been playing for 14 years. He's apparently like a lot of young hoopers, like GOAT. Would you bring him into Detroit?
Paul George?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I'd bring him
for like 2 years.
Yeah, if he wants to come play, why not?
That would be a lot of
He's
fun.
like, I should have never went to the West. This is hard. I'm just going to go to the East, and no one's going to tell him to stop shooting the ball, man. I ain't going to tell him to stop.
Oh, I'm not going to either. I think it'd be awesome to have him in. I mean, it's completely unrealistic, but I would throw 40 of the 60 million at him.
To bring him 60 million,
right? Yeah, why not? No, but I guess my archetype it's pretty simple. Dude, I just want guys that are consistent shooters that can hit an open shot, guys that can attack closeouts. I don't need guys necessarily to be able to create their own shot, but when the ball is thrown to them, catch it, fire it, make it. That's all I need. And I need you to be able to stay in front of a guy. I don't want you to be a traffic cone out there. Like, I'm not asking for all defensive teams. I'm just asking for a guy that can, he can play a little defense when he wants to. That's it. I mean, I don't think the Pistons are signing any all-stars. It's fun to talk about. I just don't see it happening this offseason. The guy that's gonna be closest to an all-star they bring in is most likely Tobias Harris. Let's just be honest, that he's probably coming to Detroit. He's gonna be one of the highest paid on the team, and he's gonna take more than 2 shots in the playoffs, even though that's not gonna happen in Detroit. But he's, like, as close of an all-star as they're gonna bring in this offseason. But who are some free agents you're looking at this offseason?
So I listed when you texted me to put these together. This is my list, and honestly, I love all of them, and
Yeah.
I think they would all do very well. I got Klay Thompson, Caleb Martin, Gary Harris, Malik Monk, and Sadiq Bey. I would not mind a Sadiq Bey return to Detroit. I think Sadiq Bey. I don't think he was very matured in Detroit. I think as he was a young player, I don't think he really hit a ceiling or a peak, and I still don't think he did in Atlanta. But I think at Atlanta, I think he learned how to be a better role player and not to be a superstar. Because I think in Detroit, I think we were like, I think I said it before, we were just begging for someone to finally come out of their shell and be that guy. And Sadiq had, I think he had a couple like 40-point games, and
He
he
had a
was making like,
50-point game against the
yeah,
Magic.
exactly. He was making 9, 10 threes a game. Like he had those games, but I don't think he was ready for it because after performing like that, we then expected him to be that guy. And I think when he went to Atlanta, he kind of learned how to play beside Trae Young and DeJounte Murray and played with a big that can be kind of similar to Jalen Duren. So I think him going to Atlanta and then maybe coming back to Detroit on maybe what, 15, 20 mil, something like that, maybe 10, 15 mil. You're looking at me weird. Like just to come back to Detroit to be a role player, I think he would be successful. I don't know if you would pair him and Tobias coming back to Detroit. I don't think that would be very smart. I think you're kind of picking up kind of the same type of player in the same type of position. But out of all of them, my favorite was Malik Monk. I think you could pay Malik Monk, and I think he could come in here and he could be very successful. He is very explosive. I like the way he plays, but I don't think he's going to go anywhere out of Sacramento because I think they enjoy him very much. Uh, but I think he could be a star on an upcoming team, so that's why I think he's my favorite. Klay Thompson's on the fall. That's your veteran that maybe we could throw some money at to attempt to get for a free agency.
Yeah.
But he's also like, what was he like 0 for 12 in the play-in game
He had a
or something
brutal
like
play-in.
that? It was really bad. But then again, he's still Klay Thompson. Someone's going to spend the money on him somewhere. He'd be just another piece on a team. But those are my lists. I don't mind Gary Harris. I think Caleb Martin could be a really good fit. Now, depending on how much money he's going to want, he had his great playoff run with Miami last year when they went to the finals versus Denver, but then he kind of disappeared a little bit. And he's only had, I think, one good game so far in the playoffs this year. So when it comes to paying him, I don't really know what he's going to ask for. But being a free agent, I think that he could be a starter for this team.
I just want to touch on Sadiq Bey just for a second because I really liked Sadiq Bey when he was first here. I just think he was a victim of circumstance when it came to Detroit. Like after Cade went down in Cade's second year, which I believe would be Sadiq's third year, they really tried to make Sadiq Bey into something that he wasn't. They were trying to trying to have him put the ball on the floor, be the number one option, and all this crap. And it's just not his game.
Yeah.
I loved when Sadiq Bey was trying to play defense and just relocating along the perimeter and getting a shot off. Like that's all I wanted from Sadiq Bey. And I just thought, dude, you focus on the defense and you just continue to hit open shots. You're going to make a lot of money in the NBA. I would be perfectly fine with them coming back, but he did tear his left ACL. So you're probably getting him for a little bit cheaper than $20 million. Like I definitely believe that. This past season with Atlanta, he averaged 14 points and 6.5 rebounds, shot only 32% from three on 5.7 attempts. His best season shooting the ball came his rookie year when he was hitting 38. But again, he started 51 of 63 games for the Atlanta Hawks. I don't know if it was just due to injuries or whatever, but I think Sadiq Bey is a solid basketball player. I just think, again, he was a victim of circumstance, and he was asked to do too much when Cade went down. Now, my list of free agents, I think you'll like it. I have Lonnie Walker, Obi Toppin, and Isaiah Hartenstein. I just have 3 of them right now because I do believe Tobias Harris is going to be here in Detroit. I I really like D'Angelo Russell as well, but I don't know if you'll be able. I think you're going to have to ultimately pick between those two who you want to bring in because they're going to command a lot of your cap space. But Lonnie Walker, I would love Malik Monk. Don't get me wrong. I think he'd be awesome, but I think that will remain a dream. So we need to look elsewhere. And Lonnie Walker, he made 38% of his threes or 39.2, depending if you're looking on NBA.com, on 5 attempts per game, which is better than Malik Monk's 35% on 6 attempts per game. Lonnie Walker made 39.6 on catch and shoot threes. I think it was like 3 something attempts per game for the Brooklyn Nets. He's not the shot creator or the playmaker that Malik Monk is, but I do believe Lonnie Walker has the chance to break through like Malik Monk did for the Sacramento Kings. And really, if you look at them, they are very similar players. Like, I think Lonnie Walker averages like 9 or 10 points for his career. Malik Monk's around 11. I think they're pretty similar. There's just Malik Monk does a few things a little bit better than Lonnie Walker, but as a guy that can just hit an open shot, Lonnie Walker's right there. He's a killer in transition. I would love him as just a replacement for Malik Monk. I also like Malik Beasley from Milwaukee. I love Obi Toppin. He's an athletic freak at the 4. He's coming off a career year with Indiana Pacers, averaging like 12 and 4. He shot 40% from 3 on 3 attempts per game. This is just a guy that can spread the floor. He can run the floor. He opens up space for Cade. And I think there is a real chance Detroit could bring him in because Indiana's probably going to try to re-sign Pascal Siakam. They invested in Jarace Walker. There's a lot of people trying to get minutes at that position, and I think Obi Toppin could be the odd man out. Plus, it gives you an opportunity to bring Isaiah Stewart off the bench as the backup 5, which is his role that I would really love him in. And then Isaiah Hartenstein, just a big who can set a mean screen and finish in the paint. He has great hands, good rebounder, solid defender, not much of a floor spacer, but he is efficient near the rim, which is something that you want, and he has a little push shot. Decent passer for the 5. I just really like those guys. I think if you were able to bring in a Tobias Harris and then some combination of 2 of these guys, you're looking a lot better than you were this past offseason.
Are we settling for Tobias Harris, you think?
In my scenario, we are. I really think he's coming to Detroit.
It just worries me that we're going to spend a lot of this cap on him. And
up to almost $30 million.
Yeah, and it doesn't really improve us that much.
So you're changing your tune a little bit on
Tobias Harris. I like him, but I think with the money that we have available, I think we should do more of a full send than more of a fallback for Tobias. I think Tobias would be a good thing to fall back to, but I think we need to take a bigger shot on someone else than just rely on him to come back. It would be like Trae Young.
Okay.
If we're going to spend the money, yeah.
If we're talking strictly free agency, here are the guys that have been all-stars. I'm just going to list them off. I might miss a few of them, but excluding LeBron James and Paul George, there's Klay Thompson, there's James Harden, which I don't think he's leaving. There's Pascal Siakam, there's Gordon Hayward, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and D'Angelo Russell. Those are the all-stars that I'm looking at right now.
I think on that list, I think a great fit would be DeMar DeRozan.
Ooh, okay.
I think he would be. I mean, him and Cade's play style is super similar. He's also a mid-range freak, so he doesn't really spread the floor that well. I think he's great, but I think that's going to be all of the money that we would spend bringing in someone like that.
Oh, I forgot. There's also Russell Westbrook.
I don't want him. Available. He can stay away from Detroit as far as
you don't want
possible.
him. You don't think he would have a career year?
Dude, we would have another Malice at the Palace, bro. He'd be fighting kids that are saying that he's Russell Westbrook. I'm good with him. It is floating around. He is my NBA player that is going to maybe potentially be a Hall of Famer just because he puts up the stats that he puts up. potentially, like, I'm not going to run my 40% like I did last time. I'm not messed that one up. But I think he will never win a championship. I don't think he's built with his play style to be successful enough to win a championship. He's been on too many teams that have had possibilities to go and were expected to win titles, and they don't even make it to the finals. So Westbrook can stay completely on the opposite side of the United States, and I'm okay with it.
So there's some other names that I like. I like Dennis Smith Jr. as a backup point guard. He was here in Detroit previously.
He's not bad. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if they brought Monte Morris back. I like Kelly Oubre Jr. I do like Nick Claxton, but if I had to, I keep going back on this, like debating between Nick Claxton or Isaiah Hartenstein. Like, who do I want between those two? And
I think Nick Claxton is he's one of the best at the rim defenders.
He is really
in
good.
the NBA.
You're right.
I think that's who you go for, because if you're gonna, with what we have right now, I think he would be paired very well with Isaiah Stewart. As much as I don't like Isaiah Stewart, I think he would be the best pair with him, because Jalen Duren can't spread the floor like Stewart can, and Claxton is a better interior defender.
It's a much better rim protector.
Yeah. So
I also like Gary Payton II. He's just always hurt though. Patrick Williams, who I know Troy Weaver loved. He is Miles Bridges. I know people are kind of on the fence about him. I am too as well, just because he's a very good, talented player, but just, some character issues. Jalen Smith out of Indiana. He's only 24. Decent defender, can spread the floor a little bit. This isn't like a great free agency class, but there are some names that I am interested in. Like, dude, if you could somehow steal Emmanuel Quickly from the Toronto Raptors, I know he's a restricted free agent. That'd be cool. He'd be fun to pair with Cade Cunningham. A little undersized, but that'd be a lot of fun. I don't know. I just look at the free agency class, and those are the three names that I do think there is an opportunity to bring them, because I think Lonnie Walker will look for a bigger opportunity. I think Isaiah Hartenstein will look for a bigger opportunity. And I just think Obi Toppin can get got, because Indiana, they've invested a lot of money into some other fours. And I don't know if he's a huge part of their future, but I guess it depends on what happens with Pascal Siakam. So, but that's my list. I like yours as well, though. You can go for bigs, though.
It's just so hard to tell with free agency, man. And I think it'll be super important to whoever takes the reins as president of basketball operations to kind of see where his mind is at and where he wants to add more talent to the roster or deplete it and replace. So, but the free agent pool is not massive coming out of 2024 for this year. It's not huge. There is a lot of hidden gems, I think, but it's not something that we can really afford to go and get a perennial all-star.
Yeah, it'd be tough to get one of those guys. It really would. I mean, it always is. But when you're a 14-win team, if you're a Paul George, it's kind of like, do I want to go to Detroit? Do I really want to do that? Is that how I want to end my career?
But we got Little Caesars at the arena. Like, it's pretty good. Like, honestly, we could do that as a selling point.
He's too deep in the play. He's too deep in the podcast game, though, too. So it would be tough for him. Yeah, I don't know how many superstars are flying in to Detroit to go on his podcast. But I do think Isaiah Hartenstein and Nick Claxton, I do think one of those guys will be a Detroit Piston this upcoming season. So we do have another name that we want to talk about. This is Lauri Markkanen. And it's kind of crazy. The Utah Jazz, they value Lauri Markkanen, but he is available for a very steep price. And that price is 4 or 5 first-round draft picks and a star-level talent. This comes from Tony Jones. So if Lauri Markkanen, do you know much about him? If he is, do you know much about him?
I know Lauri Markkanen.
Okay, I'm just making sure. If he's truly available, I would do whatever to bring him into Detroit. Him and Cade would be a nasty 2-man punch. What do you think about Lauri Markkanen, though?
You'd give up all those picks?
I want to give up 4 or 5. No, I don't think he's worth it. I don't think the Utah Jazz are going to get that unless they make a trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And, I guess if maybe Utah thinks Josh Giddey's a future star or something, I don't know who they would give up along with all those picks. But Toronto, they tried to get I think they wanted multiple first round picks for OG Anunoby. They did not get it. Who else was coming up? There was someone else. I'm blanking on the name. But there have been a few other guys. Miles Bridges, that's who I'm thinking of. Some teams offered multiple first round picks for him, and Brooklyn passed on it as well. So I think Utah is asking for it because they're just trying to get the best trade package. I don't think they're going to get 4 or 5 first round picks for him.
Why do you think they want to ship him out, though? Because he was pretty good for them. I don't understand why you'd want to move him.
I think it's because you're a team that is stuck in basketball purgatory. Like, you're probably just majority of a play-in team. You're probably flirting with either the playoffs or the lottery.
So are you what? There, you would say that Utah's currently in the process of like a start of a mini rebuild?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but I wouldn't give him 4 first round picks for Lauri Markkanen. I think he's good. I don't hate on his game. I think he's really good, and I think he could be successful with the guard play that we have. But I'm not giving up that much. I'd rather give up players than I'd rather give up draft picks.
I want to come up with a trade package, though.
I'd give up Duren. Like I would give up Jalen Duren and maybe Isaiah Stewart. But I don't think anyone in Utah wants anybody to get fought by somebody, so I don't think they're going to want Stewart. But you could look at maybe getting rid of Duren. You could maybe look at shipping out Asar.
They got Walker Kessler. They're not taking Duren.
But
even if the Pistons
I'd give up players. I don't like this roster. I don't want to get away. I don't want to get rid of picks. I don't want to get rid of picks. That's opportunity, especially if we're starting basically fresh with a new organization for coming up with this draft. Like, let this guy draft unless he wants to be the free agent god. Like, I don't think you give away all those picks.
I agree with you.
That's way too much. That asking price, it's way too steep. And as much as Lauri Markkanen's a great player, and I'm not even gonna say if I'm right because I don't even know. But every time that I've seen him play the Pistons, he destroys us. So I don't know if that's interest, yes, but is it likely? No. That's way too much. That asking price is way too high, and we can't afford to do that.
Yeah, the Pistons wouldn't even be able to give up that many. They don't have enough picks available to do that. But also,
we'll give them Troy Weaver. Do you think they'll take him?
I think the only guy on the Pistons roster outside of Cade Cunningham the Utah Jazz might be interested in would be Jaden Ivey, but that is certainly not enough to bring in Lauri Markkanen. And again, I'm with you. I'm not giving up that many first-round picks for him. Now, if we were like Oklahoma City where we had like 32 picks in the next 7 years, yeah, sure, dude, I might cough up 5 of them or, Lauri Markkanen, but the Detroit Pistons, no, I think it'd even if we were to sit here and come up with a trade package, I don't even think we could put it together a realistic enough trade package for Lauri Markkanen.
You're giving up too much.
Well, I mean, we'd have to throw in like Evan Fournier just to make the contract match, and they're not taking Evan Fournier. But I mean, I think if you had I think Detroit could get away with it if you were to throw that many first round picks in with Jaden Ivey. I do, for some reason, think that would be enough for Utah. But again, they don't have that many first round picks. And then they would really have to value Jaden Ivey. But I know that guard play is kind of their weaker position. It's funny saying that because they're much better than the Pistons overall guards with Clarkston, Sexton, and all those guys. But I really think Jaden Ivey is the only guy outside of Cade Cunningham that the Utah Jazz might pick up the phone for Lauri Markkanen.
It's way too much to give up.
It is. I agree.
It's way too much. And I'm trying to look. What are we for 2025? We have a first round pick, don't we?
Yeah, but they can't trade it because it was traded to Houston to bring in Isaiah Stewart. It's very heavily protected.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the New York Knicks have it right now. And I think it's protected. I think it eventually turns into a second round pick in 2029.
Gotcha.
But I don't think the Pistons can trade another first round pick until 2027. But they technically could trade their first round pick this year after they make the selection. Okay. So let's just say they get the first overall pick and they draft Alex Sarr, and Utah calls them up like, hey, give us Alex Sarr, Jaden Ivey, throw in Evan Fournier, we'll take him off the books, we'll give you Lauri Markkanen. That's the only way it would work with
And
this
I
first round
still
pick.
and I still you don't I still don't even do that with the potential of that first overall pick for this year. And when it comes to money as well, you're saving money on paying Alex Sarr to come and play in Detroit for that year than trying
True.
to finagle a contract for Lauri Markkanen.
So you're out on Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, I think the hill's too steep to climb, man. Like we're not getting on hands and knees to try to get this guy into Detroit. It's not going to be. Is he a fit? Anyone's a fit right now. And
Yeah.
a new face is a good face at this point. But I think the asking price is wild. Now, when you brought up Oklahoma City, I mean, I think they're fine, but it wouldn't hurt to bring in another guy like that just for
Dude.
draft picks.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't. Why not? Like that would make that roster even more incredible than it already is.
So Brandon Ingram apparently is available as well too. Who would you rather have on the Pistons if you could actually make one of these trades? Brandon Ingram or Lauri Markkanen? Who do you think actually helps the Pistons more?
If I'm giving up equally the same amount of shit to pick up either one of these guys, I would probably say Lauri Markkanen's probably a better run than Brandon Ingram. I think they both would do the same for Detroit. I think they would both bring in kind of, I wouldn't say similar statistics, but similar in the aspect of making them a better team. I don't think you bring in either one of these guys, and I think they can maybe give us maybe at least 5 to 10 more wins on the season, which isn't good. But there's a lot of overhaul that has to get done with it. With Ingram, I think he might actually want out of New Orleans after getting spanked by OKC 2 years in a row. I think he might want to get out and try something different.
I really do think Brandon Ingram is the most likely option of an all-star coming to Detroit. Out of all the guys that are available, I think he is the most likely, and you could probably put together a trade package that could actually bring him in. I really do think the Pistons could make a move and bring in Brandon Ingram. I do like Lauri Markkanen, though. He is one of those guys I would take over Brandon Ingram because I think that he helps out a ton in terms of spacing, consistent shot making, can attack a closeout, and a guy that you can actually really rely on to close a game for you. I really like Lauri Markkanen. And I think it's crazy that Utah does want to trade him. But I get it, though. You're in basketball purgatory, so you got to make a move. The NBA draft lottery is May 12th. This is when we'll find out the fate of the Detroit Pistons. Will they land the number 1 pick and draft a player to help their future? I don't know where. We're going to guess at where they go. We're going to have a little fun with this. They can't go lower than 5th. So on the count of 3, we'll just say where we think they're going to go 1 through 5. Okay? You want to do this?
Am I going after? So it's 1, 2, 3, and then say it?
Yeah, just say your number.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Ready? I'll do the countdown. 1, 2, 3, third.
2.
Oh, you bastard. Like, why did you say it at the same time? I was so excited to do it at the exact same time that we can't even redo it.
Oh my God. I don't think they get the first overall pick.
I don't think so either. Who do you think gets the number 1 overall pick out of the bottom feeders of the NBA?
It's I think Washington gets it.
Dude, that's who I think too.
I think Washington somehow scoops it up. I think we get screwed again. But yeah, now if you get the second overall pick and you're like, and if their eyes are just on one guy, like it is, say Sarr's number 1 overall, then we look to trade, and maybe we look to pick some people up. Like, who wants this? Because we don't need it. So I don't think we get the number 1. I think they need to bring Ben Wallace in there to try to get the number 1.
I don't want them to bring back Ben Wallace to this.
Why?
Because I love the fact that he was there one time and they got the number 1 overall pick with him. I don't need them messing it up.
Back to back.
That's cool as hell to me. It is interesting, though, that apparently there was a tweet floating around. I did bookmark it. I kind of want to pull it up. And the guy said that he's pretty sure he saw Donovan Cleon at the Detroit airport. So he might have been coming in for a workout. I mean, I know the Detroit airport is huge, so there's probably you're probably going there for like a layover or something. I know when I went to Hawaii the second time, I went from Grand Rapids to Detroit and then Detroit to Hawaii, but yeah, it's Donovan Cleon. So I don't think he's drafted.
Or maybe it's just a doppelganger, just like you think you look like Jason Kelsey. Like maybe it's not even him.
I think I look a lot closer to Jason Kelsey than another 7-foot white dude walking around looking like Donovan Cleon, dude. I think I think I have that in the bag, dude.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
so this comes from an Athletic, Prashanth Iyer. Oh, he's actually never mind. He does not work for the Athletic. I don't know why. Oh no, he does. Formerly of the Athletic Detroit, but he produced the Wing Wheeled podcast. So he's a Detroit Red Wings guy. He said, "Did the Pistons have Donovan Cleon in town for a pre-draft workout? Hard to miss the 7-footer at the airport." So I think Donovan Cleon might be on the board, and you're not drafting him number 1 overall, but maybe you
No.
would. I don't know. I don't even know why I just brought that up, but I think the Pistons, they land number 3 in the draft lottery.
I just don't get my hopes up for it because I know how
Well, you
much
said 2.
how much
You
I
went
wanted
higher than I did.
how much I wanted Wembanyama Mama. Like I wanted him, and it just wasn't it. So
Can you say his last name correctly?
Wembanyama.
Okay, just making sure.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. His names are so hard, man.
Why do all the good players have to have difficult last names? It blows my mind.
The Lau Red Arrow.
Dude, stop, dude.
Hey, man.
Nobody knows what we're laughing at.
No.
We'll just keep it that way. It's hilarious. But
if you guys ever been to Lau, they're a good place to go and watch high school football. Great place.
I'm sure there's someone listening from that
area. Are you okay with Cleon at a 3?
Oh yeah, dude. He's
yeah, you're okay with that?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this. I really like Ron Holland. I like Cody Williams, and I love Donovan Cleon because I think if you bring in a defensive big like that, you're gonna. I think Duren gets you more on the trade market than Jaden Ivey does right now. So I'd be totally fine with them bringing in a 5 that has defensive chops like Cleon does,
and a winning mentality.
Yeah, I mean,
he's got what 2?
He's got back to back, dude. Back to back.
Yep. So
yep, he's good. He's really
might
good.
Not, dude. I'm telling you, it probably wasn't even him. It could have been me. I'm 6'5".
You are tall, but you're not 7 foot.
Close. Like 40%.
Have you ever met a 7-footer in real life?
The tallest person I think I've ever met was Betch.
Okay, 6'9", yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I met someone that was 6'11" at the barbershop, and it was a lot of fun. He was
looking up at him, like, because I don't look up at anybody at 6'5". So when someone talking next to me, I just like, what's up, bro? Like, dude, I got nothing for you.
It's funny because like I'm 6 foot, like even
5'11".
Yeah, probably 5'11". Anyway, I just tell everybody 5'9" because it's hilarious when people that are 5'9" are like, no way, dude. It just cracks me up. But I mean. Yeah, I felt short next to him, but then I was looking at him compared to other people in the shop, and I'm like, dang, dude, he is a giant. Like, if you're under 5'8", dude, you're like running underneath his legs. This is crazy. All right, let's move on. So John Sally was on Vlad TV, and he was talking about the Detroit Pistons' 28 straight losses. And he brought up that the Pistons don't bring back former players to help establish the culture. And he had said, like, if you bring back former players, like whether it's the Bad Boys era or the Going to Work Squad era, they would help establish a culture and they would help kill that losing mentality. So do you think the Pistons should bring back former players to help establish the culture?
Give me 2.
Ben Wallace and I would say Tayshaun Prince.
We're talking about office and
like I don't know the role like Ben Wallace would fill, but I think Tayshaun Prince, he is an executive. He is in the front office for the Memphis Grizzlies. But I do think like even if you have, I don't know, like even in Isaiah Thomas in some capacity, whether it's like as an ambassador, just someone that's walking the hallways that can like kind of elbow them a little bit and just tell them, whatever, like back in my day, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think there's some value to it.
I don't think it hurts to have a mentor. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Wasn't Ben Wallace when he owned was it a G League team?
Grand Drive.
Yeah, the Drive. And I'm pretty sure being a part of that organization, he was also like walking through Detroit facilities and stuff because it is a part of all of that. So, I mean, maybe having them there does something, but I don't think we live in a culture day and age where they care that much about what a has-been already was. Like, we're living now, we're not living back before. So I think it'd be more of a culture thing to say like, oh, that's cool that he's here because I've watched him play before and he was successful. I don't think it'll have anything to do with their success.
Yeah, I go back and forth with it too because like I do agree with John Sally to a degree, but I'm also thinking like, what are you? I mean, like, what are you saying to these guys? Are you running? Are you practicing with them? Like, what are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, what exactly are you doing to help establish the culture? Like, other than talking about the glory days,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
it.
know what you would do. So, I mean, but then
Hmm.
again, I've never been part of a professional sports organization, so I don't know. I know when the old people would come, and I'm talking about like the older barbers would come back to the barber shop. It wasn't, I didn't feel any sort of way. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you guys could smoke in the barber shop and cut hair. It's
Yeah.
cool. That's all they'd ever
Yeah.
talk about. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I agree, but I disagree with John Sally because you got to give me an example of how it would work for it to make
I
sense.
think it's more of a reminisce thing, like, oh, hey, we used to be good, and now we're not. Like, because I can even back when I was in high school, like playing high school basketball as a senior, whenever we would go and we would start getting ready for our playoff run every year, the coach would bring in all veterans that used to play for our high school team. So I think in a sense, maybe it's cool to learn from someone like that, but this is a professional sport. This isn't high school. It's not, they're not really going to take everything that they say super serious and add it to their accolades of what they're going to try to do on the court. I think it's that era is not really existent because you're not going to have Ben Wallace or Rip Hamilton or Tayshaun Prince just go and run practice with them. Like, that's not a thing. So
No, but I think like having a guy like Tayshaun Prince in the front office or having Ben Wallace as like a special advisor to the defense or something, him being able to talk about and break down the game and watch film with them, that might do something. And then, I mean, but again, it depends on the role they have with the team. But if you're just walking around the hallways, I don't know what it does for a young team.
yeah.
Like, I think you're right. They're just like, oh, cool.
Like, oh, I remember when you guys won in '04 and I was only 12 years old or 8 years old. Like, so cool and that's about it. So,
But then again, like someone like Devin Booker, who does talk about the going to work squad a lot, he might, I don't know, maybe there is something to
I
what
think
John Sally's
it
saying.
hits different with I think how they grew up watching the game. Cuz I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
true.
some of them probably idolize some of these guys. And maybe it does hit different and then some of them probably don't even care. They never were Pistons fans.
True.
So, I think that's a real tough thing to say that it's really going to make a difference to a 14-win team.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Thank you.
When we look back 7 years from now, that'll be Cade's 10th year in the league. And regardless if Cade is on the Pistons or not, how many players from Cade Cunningham's first 3 years will be on the list of best players and who are they? You know how like Bleacher Report, I was telling you about this? Like they'll put out an article like LeBron James, 10 best teammates from his first 10 years in the league. How many guys do you think from the first 3 years are going to be on this list, and who do you think they are? So this is kind of
It's
a joke to point out how bad this
yeah,
roster
which
is.
isn't good
I know,
because
but
well, let's say he keeps his tenure with Detroit. If we don't bring anybody in, we really got no one to talk about. There's can we say him? Like, can we say
I'm
his name?
sure I'm sure we if he's here all 10 years, we'll have someone to talk about.
We'll average 20 wins a season. Like, I don't know. I don't think we
Okay, well, let's start with his first year. Dude, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna
no,
let you
you're
make your
good.
point.
You're good. This question is so crazy because it's so hard to really project any of these guys becoming all-stars and being elite. And
Well,
we're
true.
not bringing anybody in, and our drafting has been kind of piss poor for the last 4 years. So it's really hard to kind of indicate who is going to be more of a star in the league. So you're gonna have to lead with what you think, because honestly, I can't come up with anything right now with who I think is gonna be someone on this list of 10. Like, this is crazy.
So I'm looking at his first year with the Detroit Pistons. You have Marvin Bagley, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, Isaiah Stewart.
Stop it.
Those are the
Stop it.
guys.
So Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, so I think Jeremy Grant will be on this list, even though they only played like 60 something games together.
Yeah.
I do think. How many games did they play together? I wish I would have pulled that up. But I do think Jeremy Grant will be on the list. Now, from the second year, we have Marvin Bagley, Sadiq Bey, Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, and Isaiah Stewart. Do you think anybody from year 2 and year 3?
I really do think Jalen Duren will have a successful career. I just don't think it'll be in Detroit.
But go on.
So I think if you're talking about adding people to a list with people that he just had seasons with and he played with, I think Jalen Duren will end up being on that list at some point down the road, because I think he will be successful somewhere else more than he is in Detroit. So I think Marvin Bagley is like a no. A real
so
no.
Are you saying there's only going to be 2 players on the list if we look back on the?
I think as of right now, because none of these guys are really having Hall of Fame careers. So I think so far, if you're talking about just successful basketball players playing alongside him, yeah, maybe 2, maybe 3. But I don't put Bogdanovic in that either.
Ooh, see, I actually do put Bojan.
Really?
Yeah, just because I really don't know how good the players Cade is going to be playing with, because I do believe he'll get 10. I think he'll get. I think for sure he'll play 8 years in Detroit. I don't know if he'll make it to 10. Depends on how they build the roster. But like, let's just say he plays 10 years in Detroit. And I think when you look back on his teammates, depending on how they build this roster, I think Bojan would be on the list of best teammates he's played with. I think Jeremy Grant would be on the list. I do think Jalen Duren has potential just because he's had so many 2020 games. But I mean, those would probably be the 3 that I would put on there. And if it doesn't get any better in the next 7 years, I could see you throwing Isaiah Stewart and Jaden Ivey on that list as well. But for sure, I would put Jeremy Grant, Jalen Duren, and Bojan as guys that I could see being on that Bleacher Report list of best teammates of Cade Cunningham's.
I think a lot of these guys that I've been playing with Cade are just going to end up being like successors on other teams, just like Bruce Brown was for Denver. I don't think they're all good. Any of them are going to go be all-stars really anywhere and lead any types of teams. We just haven't seen that type of talent yet in Detroit. And if we have seen it, we would have more than 14 wins this year. So this will have to be a topic of conversation.
Ooh,
that we just keep running
too. I forgot about him. Yeah, we'll keep looking back at it.
We'll look back at it. We have no problem with kind of tallying this and just keep running it back. But I think Cade's got one more contract in Detroit, and I think he'll probably be out.
Oh, it's going to be his rookie extension, the 5 years, almost 200 million or whatever it's going to be. Yeah, and dude, this is my scenario for him. I think he gets to 27, 28 years old, and then he eventually asks out of Detroit, and will probably never experience playoff Cade Cunningham until he gets to a new team. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's how I see this thing playing out, unless they bring in a good president. We'll see.
They don't have any. I feel like they just keep pairing the wrong people alongside him. Like, and just like last podcast is. I think we're asking him for too much. Like, I think we're trying to get something out of him that he really isn't, like when it comes to being a leader and the type of play style that we're trying to get him to be like a complete superstar, when I don't think he's ready for it yet. So I don't think he's lived in that moment yet. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe they end up getting into a play-in tournament in the next 3 years, and then maybe we can see something like that. But as of right now, that is way too far on the horizon. So we're just constantly doing rebuild years every single year until the 7-10 years comes up that Cade goes to a new team, and we say that Jeremy Grant was the best player that he had on his team with him.
Dude, it probably will be that, unfortunately. Like if they don't make it, if they don't get better, yeah, I'm sure they will improve, but I mean, we might even be looking at like Quentin Grimes being on this list someday. And
Yeah,
he's not a good start when his Detroit tenure.
yeah.
All right. So thank you guys for listening to the 3 Championship Drive podcast. Do us a favor, go to Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and hit that follow button. After you hit the follow button, rate with 5 stars and leave a review by telling us who you think Cade Cunningham's best teammates have been so far. But more importantly, tell a Pistons fan